Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. It's Monday, it's Mallard Monday, yes. Now, as I said last week, I do have 4 issues here. As you saw, we've got a couple of wheels, but we do know that those 2 issues are probably going to involve something else. So, I don't know how far I'm going to get through to it. You already know by the title of the video, but let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop. Tools are ready to play. We're gonna build something great. Starting here today. Piece by piece we go now.
Right, so we have Mallard. I've got 4 issues here at the minute. Don't know how far I'm going to get through this. Obviously, we've got the wheel, we've got the top part of the chassis, we have another wheel, and we have what looks to be the front and rear sections of the chassis as well. So let's have a look at 67 and see what else it wants us to do, because it won't just be that wheel. So what do we need from the last issues? So we need some wire from issue 11. We need the left-hand floor sub-assembly. We need the right-hand floor sub-assembly. We need the cylinder cock shut-off lever. And we need the boiler backhead sub-assembly. So looks like we've got lots to do. And also you've got the wheel as well. So it looks like all we're doing is screwing the wheel together. And then it looks like we've got a lot more stuff to do to this back head and also the assemblies there. And then we'll have that at the end of it. I guess we're not actually attaching those at the minute, it doesn't look like it. We've got the Mallard story. And we've got classic locomotives. Right, so I've gathered everything that we need. So we've got the wire from issue 11. We have the left and right floor sub-assemblies. We have the fret that we had from issue 55 with that handle in it. And we have the boiler backhead. Now, someone commented the other week that they couldn't actually see what I was doing with the wires on here. So I'll just give you a close-up view of what that is currently looking like. And if I'm putting any more wires in, then I'll give you a closer look as well. But we're going to start off this issue with something really, really simple. And we're not even going to pull down the tender chassis to check this or anything. All we're doing is putting the axle in the back of the wheel and then using this screw, I'm just going to place that in there like so. Again, I'm just going to use our Allen key to tighten that. Like that. And that's all there's to do with that bit. I'm going to place that to one side. So we're going to start off with a bit of 0.4mm wire. Now we should have 0.4 and 0.5mm wire here, which I believe are those two. Now, hopefully we don't need much more because we have very little of that one. Now, if I just use my calipers, you can find out that is 0.36, so that's probably what I class into 0.4. And this one, 0.46. So that'd be the 0.5. I'll just double check what we've got here. What was left over, I think there's 0.8 or 0.7. So we're not using that one this time around, so that can go in there. Now it is the 0.4mm wire that we need first. I'm not sure that I've got enough of this. It looks like what we need to do is we need to bend it so that it comes from this gauge just up here, and we need to bring it down here and out the bottom here. Now there might, as you can see, just be enough with that, so hopefully we don't need any more 0.4mm wire, because that would be the end of this. If we do need any more, I might have to see if I can get some extra at some point in the future. So we're going to start off by bending that up like so, and then just take a quick measurement, and it looks like we want to bend it probably about the same length again, but this time the opposite way. And we go down like so, and we'll just check that for fit. So that's not looking too bad. Now we do need to bend it back, probably about here. Now I am leaving it so that this will come out and away from the back head. So we've got that sort of shape. Hopefully you can just about see that it's coming out away from the back head. And then, so when I bend it the next direction, probably best on the top camera, possibly. But we've got this going off this way. So that's how it comes away from the back head. We want this bit to just bend this way. So with that angle, so we don't want it bent in the same direction. Okay, just going to take it about there. And we're just basically going to put a little bit of a dog leg in. And again, just check it fit. And as we've done so many times before, we need to keep checking it until we're happy with the fit. So I think that's pretty good. It's coming out away over those other pipes and then on top of the pipes at the end, just there. So I'm going to dip the end of this in a bit of glue and get that secured into that gauge. Right, so we got that one glued in there. So it's coming down from this gauge and just bending out a little bit, down a bit, and then bending off that way again, and to meet these pipes down here. I do need to just trim that off, and then we'll flush it, like I've done the others. It's odd that obviously each time we've put a piece in here, we've been asked to trim it, and then we've filed it off again. It would probably been easier just to do it all as one item right at the end. Yeah. Never mind. Right, I'm just going to cut that off. Now, I'm hoping we don't need any more 0.4mm wire, because I've got about a centimetre, if that. In fact, actually, the instructions actually say, believe it or not, it says, this completes the pipework for the boiler back head, so it can now be prepared for painting. Take a flat needle file so you have a flat finish along the rear and lower edges. So that's our back head done for pipes. Looking pretty good. If I just show you up on that close-up cam there, it does look really, really good. Apologies for the state of my hands. I have been painting this morning, but I'm sure that's what you expect for a model maker. But really happy with that. That says it can be prepared for painting. So really happy with that. I might look into seeing where the painting instructions are. Maybe we'll start that one, but we'll see. But I'll leave that to one side, because I don't think we're going to use that anymore for now. What we now need to turn our attention to are the floor pans. Right, we apparently need to check the fit of this against here. Now, from the looks of it, we need to cut a notch out of the floor sub-assembly so that it clears all that pipework. Now, it's going to be difficult to know how that goes, or exactly where it goes, because it looks like it'll foul on this piece at the moment. I might leave out doing that item until the point where we're going to be fitting this to the cab, and then I can make sure that is correctly notched, and I know exactly where it needs to go, rather than cutting a large hole and then potentially having to try and fill it. I think it's going to be a better option to do that when the cab is together a little bit more, because again, you're going to be guessing a little bit on how this cab sits. And this is angled, so you can make an educated guess of where that's going to be angled, but I don't want to go making holes in things because that looks too wide to me. That looks like it needs to come over here, which would mean that this will foul against those pipes. So it might even be easier, because that's all hidden, it might even be easier to trim these pipes off and then put that in than try and trim out a bit on that. So we'll see on that one. Again, we've been told the same thing for this one. We need to make a notch in it. Again, it's ambiguous where that notch might be. If I just pull this down a second, it's difficult to get this in and out actually with the doors in here. So that's quite a tight fit, as you can see, which would mean that this would sit fairly flush in there, I guess. And if that's flush against the side there, it's got this little notch. I assume that's for the door hinge. So if that's flat against there, if that's effectively flat against the edge, you can see that's how it'll be. It looks like a lot of that pipe work will foul against this control lever. So it means one of two things. Either this pipe work is too far over this way, which it really can't be because of the door we've got there, or I might need to take off the edge of this so that this can move over a little bit. So you see what I mean by probably wait until that's fitted in there before trying to fit this to it. I think that's the better option. So I'm not going to notch either of those two until it comes to fitting them in there. But that won't stop us moving on to the next piece, I don't believe. Right, so we don't need the gauges that we've done in issue 55, but we do need this piece that I left on the fret. Right, and what we're simply going to do with our 0.5mm wire is put it in here into the hole at the end. We're going to put a little bit of glue to hold that. Like so. Give it a little bit of a twist, make sure the glue gets in there nice and sets it nicely. And we're just going to cut this off. So we've got about 2.5mm. So we have that sort of detail looking like that. We've got that little handle there. And that is then going to go into this piece here. Now we do need to make that hole a little bit bigger because it's only an indent at the moment. But we need to make that hole larger. Now I am matching the angle of the part. Right, let's just test this handle, and basically got this little tab on the bottom here, and that's just going to go into the hole like that. and that's going to hold it in place like that. So just going to put a dab of glue. What it's going to do is just dip the part in some glue, and we'll place it in like so. And we now have that lever in there like so. And that is all there is to do in that stage. So we'll put all those parts to one side. The only things left on this are a couple of the spare wheels, so we don't actually need that anymore. But just in case one of those wheels gets damaged or anything, I will leave it in the pack like that, so we've got them. So let's have a look at 68. We already know the parts that we've got, which is the top part of the chassis tender, and we've got some wire, and we've got some screws or bolts and nuts. So let's take a look at 68. Right, so 68, and we've got the chassis top, and it does look like we need a couple of pieces from previous issues. So that's issue 55. That's those gauges that I mentioned just a minute ago. So we need those. And what we're doing, it looks like we're just securing a couple of nuts to the chassis, and then that's it. And then we've got the gauges. Just need to drill a couple of holes using a 0.5mm drill bit. And then it looks like we're bending some wire around. And that's it. Now they've given us some 0.5mm wire, it looks like, I think. No, there's a 0.4mm wire, so it's a good thing they've given us some. They obviously measured this out quite well, because that's all the 0.4mm wire I had left over from the previous issues that we've been using. I mean, now I've got 3 new lengths of 0.4mm wire, so that's great news. Probably not great news because it means we've got to do a lot more wiring and pipe building, but I think if you're going to build a steam engine, you're probably going to expect that. So, what else have we got in this magazine? We've got Britain's Railways, and we've also got Great Railway Journeys. And this is the Festiniog Railway. I haven't been on that one. I've been to there, but not actually been on that engine. I have taken the steam train up Snowdonia. That's really good. That's looking like that. And they have put top on there, so we actually know which way is up and which way is down, which is good. And it's on the top that we're going to be placing these 2 nuts. So I get those out first. Basically, they're just going to go just over the top of these holes that you can see there. Now, also we need to make sure they will adhere there. Now, this is not part of the instruction. However, what I'm going to do is just rough up that section there. Just to ensure that the glue will adhere nicely to it. Now, they've said about using a 2-part epoxy for this. So, obviously you want a fairly strong joint there. What I'm going to use is this stuff, which is the Gorilla 5-minute epoxy. And to use this, all you need to do is just basically dispense a small amount, which will come out as a 2-part like that. We'll just give that a mix, and once that's all mixed, we can just put a little bit around the hole at the minute. We use a pair of tweezers just to help position this. Do the same on this side. And then now they're in position, what I'm just going to do is going to put a little bit more epoxy around the outside just to ensure they are held in place. Also being careful not to fill the hole in. And also trying not to move the nut from its current position. Right, so we've got those in place. Now, the next thing to do with this, obviously let it cure, but they also want us just to check that these nuts, these bolts go through those two nuts. If it doesn't, we can just use a tap just to clean out the threads. Obviously, that's going to take a while to set, so I'm not going to do it on camera. So just take it as read that after this is all dried, I'm going to use a tap just to make sure those threads are clean, make sure these bolts will go through, and then that's it for that piece. So I'm just going to put that to one side for now. Right, so now we have these gauges, and what we need to do, we need to drill a 0.5mm hole basically in the end of these little stalks. Now, not going to be the easiest thing to do, I don't think. But it's going to be obviously to take the 0.4mm wire that we've got to go in. So I'll get these done. It's probably going to take me a little while to do these three, but basically we've got two stalks on these two gauges, we've got a stalk on this gauge, and then I'll come back when it's time to put the wire in. So we take the single gauge first, and what we're going to be doing is coming out of the bottom of this, and basically it looks like it's going to go round and over the back. So I use the full length of wire for the minute. Gonna dip it in some glue, and then we'll just place it into the hole like that, and we'll hold it there for a second just while that sets. It wasn't working very well bending it whilst it was trying to be in there because you kept pulling it out. So what I've done, as you can see, I've done what we've done with all the other bits, which is bend it first, and then we'll glue it. So if I just grab the gauge like that, you see if I place that into the hole there, we've got it bending up, or to the left, to the right, I guess, to the right, up, and then over to the left, and then it bends to the back, like so. So I'm just going to dip that into some glue. And we'll get that gauge glued onto there. Now it looks like that it's only being held into that position. It's not being glued anywhere else. So you've got that glued like that. Now all I'm going to do is cut it off here. I'll leave a bit of excess because I don't know where this is actually going to go. So that's that gauge done. And then with these two, what we're going to be doing is coming out of the bottom and then basically going straight up. So all I'm going to do is do a roll like so. Now obviously that's far too long, so I'm just going to cut off a little bit of that, like so. And test it for fit, just by putting it in the hole there. Now at the minute that bend probably needs to come in a little bit because we're meant to have these two gauges, so there's enough gap between them. But that plate doesn't seem big enough to have a gap between the two gauges. Not for two pipes anyway. We'll try closing this up a little bit more. We've got it running up like so. Now, just going to cut that off. It looks like it cuts off flush to this. However, I am going to leave it excess just to ensure that we're not missing anything. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Right, apologies. My camera stopped recording halfway, well, at the end of issue 68. So didn't miss out on much on 68, which is great. So I bent that extra wire in, and that was all there was left to do on that stage. However, 69, you've missed completely, or almost missed completely, although there's not much to do. So let's just go into the magazine. So 69, we've got the wheel and some 0.5mm wire. We didn't need, apparently, several bits. So cab lever back bracket subassembly, the Flam and Speed recorder box, cab seat subassembly, boiler cab subassembly, slacking pipe, boiler backhead, tender chassis, wheel subassembly. So all of that. However, we don't need much of that at all. So we've got the wheel, and like I've done before, we've just attached it, put the axle in, and screwed that on, like so. So we've now got our rolling chassis. And then we've got our pipe here that we had a while back that we did not glue to the back head. And all I've done is add a 0.5mm wire in there that you can see, hopefully. And that's it for that. And as for all the other parts, they basically want us to wash them. That's all they want us to do. They just want us to gather those parts so we can wash them, ready for painting. I'm not going to do that because I'm not ready for painting yet. And I'll do it as a whole when we actually get to the point of doing painting. I haven't yet done this piece. So this is a bend of a bracket. So we've got issue 20 here. And there's one piece left on that fret, and that's this piece here. So I'll do that in just a second. I will show you the rest of the magazine. So we've got classic locomotives and great railway journeys. So, as I said, the wheel is done on there. We've put that 0.5mm wire on there. I haven't used the new 0.5mm wire that came with this issue. I've used a bit from issue 11 that we still had left over. So that's it for those. And say all the other parts we're not going to touch, just because they only wanted us washing them. But what we do want is this piece. And we just cut that out like so. And just using a pair of pliers. I know this is a very tiny piece, so you can hardly see what I'm doing. But with the detail facing upwards, we're just going to basically bend it up at 90 degrees. So I'm just going to put it in my pliers like this, and hopefully I can get it right at the edge. So I got it right at the edge like that. I'm just going to use my finger to bend that up like so. And then hopefully we will have a bracket, tiniest bracket in the world, sat there at 90 degrees. The only thing that they want us to do is check that it fits inside the little recess you can see inside the cab there. But they do not want us to glue it just yet. And it looks like it would go with this little toothed section sitting in there, and that's going to be fine. That's going to be a perfect fit just in there. So now I've done that and bent it, it's going to go back in the bag because we're not doing anything with that piece. But we don't have anything left on that fret anymore, so you can get rid of that. And that is all there is to do in that stage. So say wheel on there, pipe bent for that, and then told us to wash all the other parts that we've got. But I will leave that for now, and we'll move on to stage 70. And we have another chassis piece. So let's see what we'll be doing this one. So we have the new piece there. We've got the rear buffer beam, front drawbar detail plate, front drawbar back plate, front drawback front plate, and rear buffer beam detail plate. We need the right hand chassis side frame from issue 64. We need the left hand chassis frame from issue 66, and we need the tender floor sub-assembly. So hopefully that glue's dried enough. So it looks like we're building up the chassis frame, the outer frame. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So let's see if we can do that. We've got the Mallard story, and we've got classic locomotives. Do like Tornado. Seen it several times. Not currently in this blue livery though. I believe it's in British Railways green at the moment. Don't know how you can call one of the most modern built steam engines a classic locomotive. Was it 2008 or something like that it was built? Certainly the most modern classic locomotive, I think. Anyway, let's get on and build. So I'm going to try and be very careful of this epoxy resin on that piece. We've got our chassis plates, side rails looking like that. Obviously, the first thing we're going to need to do is get all the new parts out of this. Right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is actually placing these side rails into the top plate. We've got these tabs that come up through. We just need to bend them over at 90 degrees. Make sure that's pushed all the way up. And then we'll bend it over. And you know you've got it on the right side because you've got two large tabs and a smaller tab. I'm trying not to touch that epoxy while this is while I'm doing this. This is a little bit difficult. That epoxy is still going to be tacky at the moment. Right, so we've got that in there. We want to make sure that's a 90 degree. I'll just use the edge of my ruler for that. Looks pretty good. We're just going to apply some glue to that. Right, we're going to do exactly the same thing to the other side. So place that one in like so. We're going to bend these tabs over as well. Again, just going to check it for square, which looks pretty good. And then just going to run some glue along here. And also just along here. To give that a good bond. And next up, to hold that in place a little bit better, we have this piece, and that's going to go just on the end there. And we do have a couple of small tabs that will fit into those slots. So just, again, might need to wiggle the chassis rails a little bit. Just to get those in like that. Hold that in place for a second. Then once that's dry, what we need to do is just take a file. I just need to make sure that is flat. We've got this piece that's going to go over the top of there, like that. Obviously line up all those holes. The instructions do say use an epoxy. Personally, I'm just going to use some super glue. Because for that piece, it should be absolutely fine. And then we've only got one final section to do on this one. And that is to take this plate and we're going to be placing it over the top of that middle detail there. So again, I'm just going to use a little bit of glue. And then get that glued in place. What I'm going to do, use a pair of tweezers just to help me line this up. Also making sure that hole is lined up. And hopefully making sure that it is straight. So we've got that on there, like so. And that is all there is to do in that stage. We've got those two parts spare at the moment. But that is our chassis route looking like that. Now, presumably at some point it's going to sit over the top, like so. Probably this way around. But looking pretty good. Once that's fully cured and fully set, I'll try and get these tabs down a little bit flatter and apply a bit more glue to those. But that is looking pretty good. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button down below and give us a massive thumbs up. Apologies on the lack of recording the little bit in the middle. I don't know what happened there. Just seemed to stop recording. But there wasn't much left to do in issue 68. And I showed you what I've basically done in issue 69, which wasn't very much. Obviously, it did say about washing all those parts. So don't know what's happening there. There's been a couple of issues in that section where it said about paint. So maybe we are getting on the painting soon. Now, I know last week I did a bit of a sneak peek of what's coming up next with the next 4 issues. I've not got those 4 issues at the minute. They're buried at the minute under a couple of other boxes, mainly because I've had a bit of a rearrange and move things around, and the Mallard boxes got sort of stacked on top of. But obviously I had the 4 issues from last week. They were just sat here on the workbench. What I can do is give you a sneak peek from issue 70 that we've just done, and see what we are doing or what's coming in the next issue. Ooh. So issue 71 does say model parts, painting the boiler backhead and other components. So it looks like we are going to be moving on to painting. I'm going to have to dig that issue out before next week, just so I can see what needs to be done. Because you're not going to want to watch a video of me painting and then watching the paint dry. There are more interesting videos to be done. So I'll see what parts there are with that issue, see if there's anything that needs building. But you might find that when you next see this boiler backhead, you might find it's got some paint on it. I don't do any special techniques or anything for painting. So I'm sure there's plenty of painting videos out there if you need to know how to paint. I might even have to use some myself. But that might have paint on it next time you see it. All depends on what is required. And as I say, I'm going to have to unbury those boxes and actually have a look what's going on. If you want to see that or anything else that goes on in the workshop, please do remember to hit the subscribe button down below and also hit the bell for notifications, and then you'll be notified when I release the next set of videos. Until the next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.